It's Spoilerin time, folks, the companion show to Cordkillers. On Cordkillers, we talk about all the ways you can get things to watch. And on this show, we talk about what we have watched. This week, we'll be talking about 2521, Season 1, Episode 5, Rick and Morty, Season 6, Episode 9, and The White Lotus, Season 2, Episode 6. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Brian Brushwood.
Yeah, thankfully, it's just the two of us. There's nobody else.
Oh, Brian, I have a special surprise for you.
What?
We have Willie Scott with us on Spoilerin time.
Hey! Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Thanks, man. Good to have you. You watched things you would never have watched otherwise to be on the show. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
All right, let's start with The White Lotus, Season 2, Episode 6. It's Spoilerin time, so I'm just going to say it right up top, Brian. I was shocked we didn't get the murder. We only got one episode left, and we didn't. I swore we would at least get a hint of the murder, even if we didn't know who got murdered.
What?
Nothing.
That's not how it worked last year, Tom.
I thought we knew someone was dead before the end. We just didn't know who killed them.
We knew that somebody would die in the first episode.
Well, no, I know that, but I mean, I thought before the finale we knew who had died, but we didn't know who killed them. But
did you watch the next on that comes on after the episode?
I did not.
Okay, yeah, because it definitely.
But we try not to. We try not to mention. They're unmentionable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The week that shall not be named.
Hey, let me just get unpopular opinion out right up front. I thought this was a boring episode. I didn't like it very much. I thought that everything that we had been predicting is coming to pass. Oh my gosh, Ethan and Harper are arguing. Oh, Harper may be about to have sex with Ethan's friend. Oh, the gay mafia is maybe about to finally pull their heist. They're doing cocaine. A gay fake nephew is apparently not thrilled with portraying himself as a nephew. What was there that I'm not seeing?
I'll make my best stab at finding stuff because I can't really defend the Ethan stuff. That felt entirely too predictable. Ethan just gets madder and madder. I did like the fact that they made the Harper stuff feel entirely deniable. As a third party viewer, I was like, Ethan, I don't think anything is going on. Like, certainly there's room to interpret it, but yeah, I think you're just losing your marbles here. Cause I really don't think anything. I was convinced that nothing is going on between Harper and Cam.
Yeah.
How about that electric moment that they went to go visit their relatives and got told to get bent?
Yeah.
That really seemed to go nowhere.
I mean, but that was the purpose of it, was you were supposed to have built up the fantasy along with them that they were going to get to their roots. That was the whole purpose of their trip. They've been talking about it the whole time. And then they show up and they get disappointed. I didn't mind that. That didn't bother me.
And
didn't
a little bit of subtext.
add a lot given the amount of time, but what's the subtext?
Well, it was the men of the DeMarco family going to see the family home, and all of the women who
saying we don't need men.
Yeah, get out of here. And
That's
they don't
not
speak
bad.
the language. There's something to that, I guess.
I mean,
I was a little if I may continue trying to defend, I was a little disappointed in the transparency of Lucia's scam on what's his name?
The fake pimp guy.
Quentin.
Yeah. Well, no, the boy of the Albie. But I was glad they didn't string it along too long. I was glad she didn't go all the way out there to the family home with them, and that left them where they were a little bit in the lurch and couldn't communicate well, which made that scene work a little bit better. I still don't know what's going on with the Palazzo folks. I know they're up to no good, but I don't know what it is. I know they want to get her money, obviously, but how? Is it embarrassment? Is it killing her? We got the photo of her husband with the uncle, the palazzo owner, and I was like, oh, so she's on to them now. And then she just puts it down and starts making out with the cocaine guy. But I at least I feel like there's a little mystery there. I still have no clue who the dead people are. Yeah, I don't know. I was happy for Valentina. I think that's my takeaway on this episode.
That was the one scene that I rather liked was Valentina and Mia, basically Mia saying, "Hey, you deserve to be happy," and it does. And there's another thing I like, which is being right, because Valentina says, "I've never been with a girl," and so I was right that maybe she was just realizing that.
Yeah.
Or if she had realized it before, she's finally getting to the moment where she's like, I have to act on it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. This was an interesting episode for me because I actually binged through the second season. So it's interesting that Brian calls this the most boring episode, but it was
the least awesome episode.
Gotcha. Yeah. But I had the experience of binging through the whole thing. So I had a different experience. I think I have an idea of who the killer is. I don't know if
Tell.
I believe, and forgive me, I'm terrible with with names as well. But I think it's Aubrey Plaza's boyfriend. That's who I think right now.
Ethan, okay.
Yes, Ethan. I think it is.
I feel like that's too obvious. I feel like that's what they're telegraphing.
I know, yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah, I that's exactly what I'm thinking too. Is
we also have the classic film trope, cocaine guy's gun.
Right.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Where Tanya says, "Oh, it's so cool that you have a gun. So cool.
I take it with me everywhere."
Oh, you take it with you everywhere? So you're such a man.
It's definitely not an accident that's in there.
Oh gosh, no. Yeah.
Bryce, what was your favorite part of this episode?
I liked a lot of things about this episode. I thought we were talking about Ethan a moment ago. Ethan is in the exact same emotional space that Harper was 2 episodes ago, right? She found the condom and she just shut down, right? She was dealing with
exact though. Like Harper, I felt like kept some rationality, but carry on.
Well, sure. I guess Ethan's probably going a little more off the deep end than maybe she did, and the difference being that her situation, the way that she felt is kind of what caused him to feel this way, right? Now there's a lack of trust between the two of them, and so there's just a bunch of emotions going on. I do have a bit of a tough time thinking it's going to be any of these 4 people between Ethan and Harper and Cameron and Daphne as far as the dead or the murderers.
Well, I mean, in the first episode, we kind of have a little bit of a clue because this whole entire series is basically a flashback up until we get to that point, which you'll notice, by the way, at the beginning, it's 1 week earlier. We are now in episode 7, so we are at the 7th day of the week.
Every episode is a full day.
Yeah. And we see Daphne right at the very beginning discover the body, so it can't possibly be her. She's out of the question.
What
right
if
now.
she's not dead though?
I like what Cliffsinger says. There's no murder. It's just an accident. They all like die in a car wreck or something.
Yeah,
could be.
That would be a bad answer. Like, I don't disagree, Cliffsinger, that that's plausible, but that would be a bad answer.
Yeah.
What if nobody dies? The dead body was totally unrelated, not one of the characters.
I mean, this episode, if there's a reason for it to exist, I'm not seeing it. I'm almost certain we could cut this episode out and go straight to whatever the next episode is, and I'll be shocked if there was a single thing that we learned outside of the fact that Mia hooks up with the person in charge, the boss.
With Valentina. I think Tanya's scene has the serviceable info, which is the gun is probably going to be important. And you can argue like, yeah, but if somebody gets shot, you don't need to have seen the gun before. But I think that could be important. But even more important is the picture of her husband explaining the connection between them. I think that's going to play a much bigger deal.
Do you think that that either of the men in this photo is Greg? Because I'm
not seeing.
I'm
it.
like 60% sold on this.
I'm 90% sold on it.
Okay.
Wow.
Is that because you instantly recognize them, or because you read an article that said so? Or...
It's because in an earlier episode, he talked about meeting a cowboy in Wyoming who he would do anything for. Right. And Greg's from Wyoming.
And so you're saying ipso facto, they're the people in this photo frame.
And he looks like he could be Greg. So I was
I did assume
because the Palazzo owner had planted that idea. I looked at the frame. I was like, that definitely could be Greg, and that's certainly young. Could be young Palazzo owner.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
Also, in terms of like the value of this episode, I think that this episode does, I think, a quicker job than in season 1 of, hey, we're concocting a heist. Do you want to help us concoct a heist? Where a lot of this is happening in the background, which I think is very helpful, but also we're setting up a lot of breadcrumbs that could be important later, right? We've talked a lot about the prenup, right? Greg and Tanya have a prenup. Well, it would be one thing if Greg got something when she died, but what if he got something because of infidelity? That's also a very common thing in prenups. So maybe this is a honey,
like a setup.
Yeah.
That almost feels disappointing, like kind of mundane, if that's the case.
Well, what's your theory, Tom?
I don't have one, though. So,
interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, how boring.
Well, I'm just saying, a mundane theory certainly is better than no theory, but it won't necessarily be any more satisfying if that ends up being true, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess we got one other tidbit. We found out that what's her name was not just chit-chatting in the front office, but was engaged to what's his name?
Oh, Isabella and Rocco.
Yeah.
We not only find out that they're boyfriend, but they jump straight to, oh, by the way, we're engaged.
They're secretly engaged.
Yeah.
Well, they may have been dating for a while. I don't think they rushed into it necessarily.
But
it definitely felt that way when I was watching it, but absolutely.
I mean, I was left just hoping that Valentina experiences one moment of joy in her sad life.
Right?
Wow. Oh.
I mean, am I wrong?
No, I think that's what you're led to believe. Maybe she finally got. Right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, it definitely feels like that was the end goal of that scene at the very end, right? Where they're, passionately getting together.
Well, and also making sure that she gets the job as piano player. I mean, that side of it is very practical.
True, yeah.
This is drawing the bowstring. That's the only thing I can figure, is that the last episode is just going to be so madcap because Tanya's far away from the hotel to be the body. The Grasso family is on the road. Like, Portia's stuck in a hotel in a different city. It feels like our cast is quite far flung.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This was my least favorite of all of the episodes.
All right. Well, there you go, folks. That is the White Lotus season 2, episode 6. Let's talk about Rick and Morty season 6, episode 9. I just kept thinking, Brian, of your analysis that, Rick has become a proxy for Dan Harmon's journey through therapy. This episode clearly reflecting that.
Yeah, and it had echoes of. I think they've kind of established, like, 1 out of every 10 adventures, Morty gets to make the call, and for whatever reason, this was a Morty adventure, and Rick, instead of belittling it and being unkind, was like, you know what? I'm trying to be a better person. 22% better. It's a significant amount. Go for it.
You're gonna feel it.
Yeah. Having said all of that, it was sillier with less substance than I would like, but it was good. It was good.
Enjoyable, right?
I liked the fact that they suddenly had bridge crews and they were doing Star Trek stuff.
Willie, what about you?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, having watched this episode in a vacuum, I will say that that Rick being like so kind to Morty was definitely interesting because yeah, I feel like it's kind of a kind of a departure from the way Rick used to be. And I don't know, like to me that was a funny thing that that they have to basically cut off their you know to get access or to get knight status. Even I don't even, it's not even king, it's like you have to get knight in order to get knight status. Apparently what's involved is cutting off your dingaling.
But to not be a knight anymore, you have to defeat the king, whether you're a knight or not.
Yeah, well, and Morty jumps straight to that, right? And it's one of those things where they have to consult the rule book and be like, can this work?
It was silly. I quite like that Santa Claus is the king of Earth, but doesn't go by Santa Claus.
Yeah, but it's like,
Right?
what?
What did you call me?
Yeah, as someone who loves cartoons, like, yeah, no, this was a silly episode, and some cartoon episodes are just like that, and I loved it for that.
Yeah,
It was better than last week.
Madcap Adventure.
Wait,
Oh, really?
Last
Really,
week
Bryce?
was great.
Last week was all right.
Last week was great.
What did you like most about this week, Bryce?
I liked that they tricked me in that you kind of feel like after 5 minutes, like, oh, hey, okay, we actually did wrap up Morty's thing really quickly. Maybe we're gonna do another thing, and I like going back to it because they really fed the story and had a lot of all of the other planets coming out. I enjoyed the progression of this, and that it wasn't.
I kept
kind
half
of a
expecting Rick to just blow up and like, I can't be supportive anymore, and he didn't. I thought that was good too.
Yeah.
What, Brian? I see you gritting like a cat that ate the Rick and Morty episode plot.
All I want to do is defend last week's episode, so I'm not going to do it. I'm doing you a favor because
I see.
this was a fine episode, but last week was a masterpiece.
Any other thoughts on this episode? I really don't have a whole lot of deep thoughts. It's kind of like, yeah, it was a fun little romp.
It was a little bit by the numbers.
They kept it self-contained too.
I did dig the drive-by swiping of pop-up restaurants and about how
that was good.
It did start with a line, which
I immediately thought of you there too.
Yeah.
Like as someone who was clear told me like, yep, I don't stand in lines.
I don't do lines.
Like, no, we're paid to stand here to make it look cool. Like everyone's conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
All right. That is Rick and Morty season 6, episode 9. Let's talk about 25-21, season 1, episode 5. We get the actual fencing. We get the mending of some fences between the two main characters. Brian, how'd you feel about this one?
Tom,
Mm-hmm.
I may be running out of steam on this show.
You might be tapping out. That's totally fair.
Wow.
Totally fair.
Whoa. What was this episode too slow for you? There were a lot of music montages. I will tell you that.
Okay. Yes, it was too slow. Also, I watched it at 1.5 speed.
How did that go?
Which he has been.
Which he has been.
Yeah.
Or you've been watching it at 2x or 1.5x?
1.5. It's as high as
Okay, so
go.
that you've been doing that. That was
Yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, what did we get in the way of twists or surprises or
Eugene moved away.
Yeah.
The biggest plot point.
yeah? Do we believe that's that?
No, I think they will continue to
no.
do 20 more episodes of the show.
Right.
Yeah.
So as a result, I don't believe it. I don't believe.
You don't believe it? It happened.
No. I don't
no.
believe
He wasn't. He's like I'm not feeling anything about him moving away because I know he's just going to move back.
Correct.
Yeah,
I feel no pain about it. Likewise, I felt no joy that she made the team because you tell me we didn't see that coming from a mile away.
Yep.
It's a
that's
soap
fair.
opera. What do you expect
I thought
twists?
what they did well was give her an actual challenge at the end with somebody who had been on the team before and had a gambit that she had to overcome. But yeah, I agree with you on both points. You never thought Eugene was going to stay in on the seaside, and you kind of knew that she had to make the team for sure.
As a fellow,
not that those things shouldn't have happened, but what you're saying is, but they didn't give me anything else, right?
Yeah.
Yes, and now that's not to say I'm giving up on the show. I'm happy to keep on going because I suspect there's a very good reason that you love the show so much. But this was, of all the episodes so far, the one. Boy, I guess I'm just in a sour mood today. All three of the shows that we're talking about were the ones I was least impressed with.
I will say, because I watched this at 1.5x speed as well.
Oh my goodness.
What I will say though is I think it actually helped my watch of it personally, because I think I would have thought it was going to be way too slow had I watched it in normal speed. But it's interesting for me because I jumped into this. This was my first episode of this series, and so the fact that we start right away with she gets into this big fencing team was interesting to me because that was my first experience. And, it's like, I assume there's a progression that got us to that point, but I almost kind of didn't really care because I'm like, we got to the action right away,
Mm-hmm. I think what they're trying to do with the team is they're like, well, we know you all know she's going to make it. So the twist, the thing that was supposed to keep it interesting is that she gets put into rooming with Yurim. And now you're supposed to be thinking like, okay, how uncomfortable is that going to be? How are they going to navigate that? While also knowing in the back of your mind that those two, and this is something you don't know, Willie, because you popped in on this episode, that those two are online friends, but they don't know that they're online friends. And so now they're going to be living in close quarters, hating each other. But you don't see that develop in this episode. They put that off for future episodes.
Right. Got it.
Bryce?
I dug this episode. I took a lot of notes. I think probably my highlight of the episode, maybe this is not great because this is a small moment, but when the landlord lady finds out that the kids are from the national team.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that was great. It was great. The script was good. The physical comedy was fantastic. And it did a good job of being a story block of exposition. Like, hey, if you don't get it, these are Olympians. This is Olympian level athleticism, which I feel like you could go this whole way and have missed that just a little bit.
Sure. And that is a valued sport in the nation that people talk about.
Yeah.
It's covered on the national news and all that. Yeah.
And I thought it was kind of a nice thing. I had noted, I took a lot of notes because this is a long show, Tom. It's a very long show. At the beginning, they show the third place certificate. And at the very end, she gets that third place podium. And it's like, it is kind of a featured B-roll moment, but it's a very small bit, and it actually made me feel like, okay, this is not just a soap opera that is 90 minutes long every week. I thought it was good foreshadowing, and I really want to know. I'm excited to find out how this gets to the present day. I'm ready to Bryce slice this up. I'm ready to just jump to the quick on this.
Yeah, I will say too, because watching this was kind of like a time capsule for me too, because I'm sure you've talked about this already, but the fact that everything is 90s in this universe, it's like I would totally pass this as like a 90s sort of like she gets the tape player, and that's how she listens to stuff in bed, is with a tape player, not a smartphone like you would today. It's like the payphone thing. It was it was so great.
We do get a little bit of voicemail, press 1 to hear this message again, and they're spending money to,
And I thought that was a good reveal.
Call notes.
Like, why is he doing this? And then you find out it's for that. And then they're both doing it. Oh, they're both doing it. That was cute. I didn't like the fountain stuff. I'm over the fountain. We're done with the fountain stuff. It's cute. We're done with it. I don't get it. How did they? I guess this is just a big romantic.
Walk through the frame.
What's up with this? Hey,
didn't work for you. I knew it wouldn't work
what is
for
it? She-Hulk? Come on.
I could see it coming too, because you could tell, Willie.
Also, isn't it snowing when she does the water spout thing?
Right. So the thing when they're doing the water spout is merely, I don't think it's supposed to be taken literally, especially because she walks through the frame. It's a remembering. Right. I remember the good times, that are gone in the past, sort of thing. The snowfall is significant in these kinds of stories. First snowfall is considered like a romantic time, and that's when you and your sweetheart should definitely have your first kiss or your first date, or it's that's a symbolic element that I know is probably going to be lost on a lot of people if you don't watch a lot of these things. But that's why it's snowing there. It's like, oh, and it's also first snowfall, like that's supposed to add to the sweetness of the moment.
Okay, that makes way more sense. Okay,
I'm glad they gave us fencing, and I'm not glad that they made it seem like we don't need to see any more fencing.
Oh, you'll see more fencing.
Good.
I'll spoil that for you. Yeah,
good.
You'll see more fencing.
At least that was some action. That was a good action piece.
Including the moment where that one opponent she's facing is calling out every little disqualification or every little thing that is
she's delayed,
the gambit to try to get her off her game,
right? Exactly,
showing that there's an experienced player who knows how to use all those kind of advantages, and Naito is learning those things.
Yeah, totally, man. I couldn't help but laugh during that moment, though, because it's just like, man, you really take your fencing seriously, don't you?
Hell yeah. Yeah, if you want to get on that team, you got to.
Yeah, true.
All right, Brian. Are you tapping out? Are you willing to try one more?
Not tapping out. This was just the first one that I was a little bit. It was not a match for me.
Fair enough. And as I mentioned before, they came out back to back, like Saturday, Sunday, and this was, I believe, a Saturday episode, right? So you always have a little more happening in the second one in that sort of TikTok rhythm. So maybe the next one will suit you better. That is 2521 season 1 episode 5. And that does it for us on Spoilerin Time. Thanks everybody for being with us. Thank you, Willie Scott, for hanging out. Really appreciate it, man. Remind folks where they can find your stuff.
Absolutely. Well, if you want to check out my podcast, cinemavention.com, I actually talk about my journey in watching every movie that I should have seen long ago. Actually, if you like Spoilerin Time, I think you'll like this a lot more because I take one movie and just go in depth about it, talk about it with a guest who hasn't seen it before. I also want to put in a quick plug for the Streamathon, dcstreamathon.org. That's going to be happening on New Year's Eve. If you don't have any plans, I highly encourage you to join us for that. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're raising money for charity.
Excellent. Thank you again, Willie Scott. And thank you, folks. You get these episodes a little earlier at patreon.com/Cordkillers. Go drop us $1 if you will. Until next time, we'll spoil you then.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.